What is the definitive music of the COVID era? The early 2020s were some of the most unique years of the past century. The coronavirus forced the world to shut down and become isolated, leading to a stark shift in day-to-day life. With the shift in day-to-day life came a shift in the culture. As a large part of the population was anxious, depressed, and bored, the art at the time reflected that, and it created a very unique moment in the cultural mainstream. But looking at this time retrospectively, what is the definitive work of art from that time? For this video in particular, I'm going to focus on music from this time. So I'm going to be going through a variety of songs and albums to see which ones are most emblematic of the era. Let's go. But first, I want to say thank you for 1,000 subscribers. Your support of the channel over the past few months has meant a lot to me. And if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. But without further ado, let's get right into it. In order to quantify how emblematic a given song is of the COVID era, I created a rating system. And after racking my brain for a literal hour trying to find a COVID-related acrostic for this rating system, I'm just going to call it the Osprey system. And this is going to be for a score out of 50, with 6 different variables. The first one is year, which is when was the song released. If the song was released in 2020, it's going to get the full 10 points. But it's also going to get the full 10 points if it was released in 2021. Because although that wasn't necessarily the quarantine era, COVID was absolutely still going on at that point. And also there's a lot of stuff that was produced in 2020 that didn't come out until 2021. The next one is of its time. Could this have only been released during the COVID era? This is going to be judged on a scale from 1 to 10. Like, how was the music process impacted by COVID? The next category is sentiment. Does the music have a pulse on what the nation is feeling? And I know that this is very subjective, but I'm going to rate it on a scale from 0 to 10. The next variable is popularity, and while there are many ways to go about this, I'm just going to keep it simple. If the song charted on the Hot 100 or the album was in the top 100 of the Billboard 200, then it gets the full 10 points. The next factor is reference. In my opinion, if a song directly references COVID, it really takes me out of it. So I'll give it 5 points if it doesn't reference any of these things. But if these words are mentioned, I'll be taking off points, corresponding with how often it's referenced. And the final variable is excellence. How good is the music? Although I had initially had this on a scale from 1 to 10, I don't think that it's as important as the other variables, and I don't want a piece of music to be higher than another just because of how good it is. So I'm just going to make it simple. 5 points if the song is good, 0 points if it's not. So now that we have that all together, let's get into some songs. And let's start with a really bad one.
Hey guys, day 6 in self-quarantine.
Oh, you already know what time it is.
Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try.
On March 18th, 2020, during the first week of the shutdown, Wonder Woman actress Gal Gadot released this video covering Imagine with a bunch of other celebrities. And even though this isn't like a proper song, I had to include this. It's one of the first things that comes to mind when I think of cultural events during the quarantine period. I mean, what were they thinking? The whole world is just shut down due to the coronavirus, and these people are like, you know what the world needs right now? Celebrities. In my previous video, I compared this to We Are the World, but I honestly feel like that's an insult to We Are the World. At least that one was for a good cause. This is just to boost the celebrities' egos. And every time I see a celebrity in there who I actually enjoy, like Will Ferrell, it's just so disappointing that they would participate in this. But at the same time, it was entertaining, just not in the way that they had imagined. The entire internet just railed on these celebrities. And I feel like it was the mark of this shift against celebrity culture, which was so dominant during the 2000s and 2010s. And there are many parodies of it, like by comedian David Cross and the show The Boys.
Have some more chicken. Have some more pie.
But let's see what score it gets. It was released during 2020, so it gets the full 10 points there. It was absolutely of its time, so it gets the full 10 points there. I'll give it like 5 points for the sentiment, you know? Gal Gadot opened the video by saying she was feeling philosophical 6 days into the pandemic, and the disjointed nature of it is very reminiscent of the time. Although this song didn't make the Billboard Hot 100 because it wasn't initially released, it got millions of views on YouTube and other social media sites, so I'll make an exception. I'll give it 5 points. Although the song itself doesn't have any references to COVID, Gal Gadot's intro references quarantine, so I'll dock it down 1 point for that. And the excellent score, yeah, it's going to be a 0. So in total, it gets a 34, which is honestly not a bad score to have. But let's get on to some actual music. So one of the first ideas I had was to look at the pop music at the time. So I went to the Spotify charts and I went back to June, which is I feel like when the pandemic was far along enough so that the music had its own identity. And oh my god, I forgot about this one.
Lil' mama a party girl, she just wanna have fun too. They say you ain't wifey type, but I don't care, I want you.
Party Girl. Now that is COVID music. This is the party song of the pandemic, because there weren't any parties. This is probably the most lethargic pop song of my lifetime. Like, even the girls in the music video are asleep. Stay Solid Rocky. I wonder what he's up to now. Oh, he released Party Girl 2?
Lil' mama a party girl, she just wanna have fun too. They say you ain't wifey type, but I don't care, I want you.
Wow, this is somehow worse than the original. But let's get into the Osprey rating. This was released during 2020, so it gets a 10 there. I think this is pretty of its time. I'll give it like an 8. Like, I don't know how many people would be bumping this if it released today. The sentiment section is weird because while the lyrics are about like a party girl, the music really has just the vibes of the pandemic. I'll give it a 7. This song peaked at 21 on the Hot 100, so it gets 10 points there. There aren't any references to COVID or really anything except for parties and drugs. And as for excellence, yeah, this is a bad song. So in total, this gets a 40, becoming the new Osprey champion. Hey guys, Jack and Post, and I'm gonna have to make a quick update to this score. This song was actually released in late 2019, but it was re-released in April 2020. So I'll give it 5 points for the year, which bumps its score down to 35, but it still puts it on top. But let's look at some other songs from that era. And you know what time it is? It's Drake time.
I'ma show you how to get it. It go right foot up, left foot slide, left foot up, right foot slide.
If Party Girl is the party song of the COVID era, then Tootsie Slide is the dance song of the COVID era. It's been 5 years and I still don't understand how this got so popular. Like, look at this dance. That's gotta be the simplest dance ever, right? Unless somebody drops a song that's like, clap your hands one time. But no, this stupid dance became huge. It's even an emote in Fortnite. Of course I have it. Wait, I just checked my locker and apparently I don't have it. I have this one though. Alright, let's put it into the Osprey. It was released during 2020, absolutely a product of its time. This song has no sentiment, which, I mean, boring is an aspect of the lockdown, so I'll give it a 7. This song hit number 1 somehow. No references to COVID, and this song is not good. So in total, this gets a 42, beating out Stay Solid Rocky for the Osprey crown. But now let's finally get into some good music. Starting with Benet. COVID era music was filled with one-hit wonders, and Benet is no exception. Her song Super Lonely is just an infectious pop hit with a catchy chorus, a unique style on the verses, and a feature from Gus Dapperton. Okay, that can't be his real name. Yeah, that's what I thought. But let's rate it. This song was released in 2019, but it only hit the Billboard charts in March of 2020, so I'm gonna give it a 5 for that. I'd say that although the song itself isn't of its time, its popularity is, so I'll give it an 8 there. Its sentiment lyrically really mirrors the COVID age. I mean, the song is called Super Lonely, so I'll give it a 9. It peaked at 39 on the chart, so 10 there. No references to COVID, I mean the song was released before the first case happened. And this is the first song that I'm going to be awarding the 5 points for excellence. So in total, this song gets a 42, and although it does tie Tootsie Slide, it does not beat it. Let's see if a country song can. When you discuss the best country artists of the 21st century, Chris Stapleton absolutely has to come up there. I mean, his music marked a shift of country music back to the heartland kind of country of the 70s and 80s, now used by Zach Bryan and Luke Combs. And one of his best songs was released right in the middle of COVID. It's called Starting Over.
Well, the road rolls out like a welcome night.
And this is just a very simple song about, well, starting over. And all of the ups and downs regarding moving to a new place, either physically or metaphorically. And this resonated with a lot of people at the time. This song was released in August of 2020, when the world was accustoming to the new normal. And coming back to school or work after months of quarantine really did feel like starting over. so this song was very relatable at the time. But let's put it on the Osprey. It was released right in the middle of the pandemic, so 10 points. Of Its Time is strange, because I feel like that this song is timeless. Like, if this song had been released at any time in the past 50 years, it still would have had the same impact and would have been just as good. But lyrically, I have to give it at least some points. I think I'll give it 3 points. Its sentiment absolutely mirrors the world. You know, this feeling of anxiety, but also optimism. I think I'll give it a 10 there. This song peaked at 25 in the Hot 100, so 10 points there. No references to COVID, and this is why I have it as a variable. Like, COVID was absolutely on his mind when he was writing this song, but I didn't need to make direct reference to it in the lyrics, you just knew. And for excellence, I'm going to give it the 5 points, because this is a great song. So that gives this a total of 43 points, which barely beats out Drake and Benet for the Osprey crown. But this next one is a doozy.
Don't stay awake for too long, don't go to bed.
Yeah, remember this one?
For your head, they'll get you up and going out of bed.
Yeah.
This is Deathbed by Powfu, and in my opinion, it's the king of the low-energy hits of 2020. This song shot to popularity essentially as soon as the pandemic hit the United States, and it's not hard to see why. This is the depressing emo rap that everybody craved during the first stages of quarantine. The song is basically Powfu in a metaphorical deathbed because of a breakup or something, but people really clung to it. At least at the time. This song has completely fallen off the face of the earth. And yes, that is Biba Doobie on the chorus, technically her first and biggest hit. But let's see what these artists are up to nowadays. Biba Doobie has only continued to rise, with her indie albums Beatopia and This Is How Tomorrow Moves both being commercially and critically successful. And Powfu, oh, he released Deathbed Part 2. Let's give it a listen.
It's been a while since we talked last, let's keep it real.
What is it with these washed up pandemic artists making part 2s to their songs that are significantly worse than the original? Anyways, it's Osprey time. This was released in 2020, so 10 points. As for Of Its Time, the song was released in February of 2020, before the quarantine period happened, but there was absolutely anxiety about the virus going on at that time. And it really only got popular because of the pandemic, so I think I'll give it an 8. Its sentiment was definitely representative of the world, so I'll give it the full 10 points. This peaked at 23 on the Hot 100, so 10 points there. No references to COVID. And in terms of excellence, this is actually really hard because this song is like perfectly mid. I have no positive nor negative feelings about this song. I'm just gonna split it right down the middle and give it a 2.5. So that is a total of 45.5 points, becoming the new champion. But now that we've gone through a few songs, let's get into albums. And let's start with a really indie and underground artist. Have you heard of Taylor Swift?
Vintage tea, brand new phone, high heels on, cobblestones.
Folklore was surprise released by Taylor Swift in July of 2020, and it was a surprise indeed. Taylor Swift was just coming out of the Reputation and Lover eras, where she was making super by-the-books pop music, and then she releases this album, an indie folk record that focuses much more on personal stories than anything else. There's only one feature on this album, and it's from Bon Iver of all people. A lot of people view this as Taylor Swift's best album, and it's not hard to see why. And it really allowed her to show off what she does best, which is songwriting. To be honest, I hadn't heard this album before listening to it for this video, and I was pleasantly surprised. Cardigan, Exile, and August were my favorite songs from the album. But let's put it into the Osprey. It gets 10 points because it was made in 2020. Of Its Time, it's weird because I think it has the same issue as Starting Over in that she could have released this at any time and it would have been successful. Like, if you told me this album was released a year ago, I wouldn't be surprised. But at the same time, the more mellow and experimental sound definitely comes from this album being recorded during COVID. I think I'll give it a 6 there. As for sentiment, although the feelings aren't as direct as some of the other stuff we've covered, there's definitely a lot of themes of escapism and nostalgia on this album, which we were all definitely feeling in 2020. So for that, I'll give it 8 points. As for popularity, this hit number 1 on the Billboard 200, which I mean, it is Taylor Swift, but that is also pretty cool to see. It basically showed her that she didn't just have to make pop songs to be successful. I don't think this references COVID directly, but I wasn't paying too much attention to the lyrics. So if it does, let me know in the comments. But for now, it gets 5 points. And as for excellence, this is a good album. I'll give it the 5 points. So that is a total score of 44. putting it just behind Deathbed for the lead. But let's look for more albums that fit the mold of COVID music. And in doing my research for this video, there was one album that kept on coming up as definitive of the COVID era, and that is Inside.
If you'd have told me a year ago that I'd be locked inside of my home.
Inside is a comedy special by Bo Burnham that was released in May of 2021. It was filmed by Burnham all by himself over the course of a year, solely within his house, where he'd make music and skits. The music from the special was then released as Inside the Songs, which is technically an album. But the tracks on this are a reflection of the time. There are songs about the pandemic itself, like Look Who's Inside Again. He touches on the necessary shift to online culture with songs such as FaceTime with My Mom Tonight, White Woman's Instagram, and Welcome to the Internet. He criticizes late-stage capitalism in the COVID era with How the World Works, Unpaid Intern, That Funny Feeling, and the two Bezos songs. And he describes his own deteriorating mental health with songs like 30, Don't Wanna Know, All Time Low, and All Eyes on Me. But this special/album was very well received as a reflection of the past year. As for me, I ate this stuff up at the time. It's still in my top 25 most listened to albums of all time. And while I feel like my taste has evolved and I don't really find this special as entertaining, I can still respect the hell out of Bo Burnham for putting this together. But regardless, let's see where it lands on the Osprey. It was released in 2021, so it gets 10 points there. It is absolutely of its time. As I said, the sentiment reflects the worlds over the past year pretty well, so that's a 10 as well. This album charted at number 7 on the Billboard 200, so it gets the popularity points. And that's when we get to references. And this is the opposite end of why I feel like referencing COVID brings it down a peg. A lot of the jokes on here are just so dated to the COVID era. And it's why it doesn't really have a space in the cultural mainstream anymore. I mean, I guess you could argue that that's kind of the point, but at the same time, it just doesn't have much listenability now. And because of that, I feel like I can only give it like 2 reference points. But in terms of quality, it's still a well-made album and special in general, so I'm gonna give it the 5 points there. So that is a total score of 47 points, and it becomes the new Osprey champion. But I got one more album to cover, and this was the album that inspired this video in the first place. So you know Charli XCX, whose breakout album Brat solidified her as a party girl? What happens if you take the party away from the girl? Well, this.
Love, suicide, you and I drove for miles, knew I'd be here, be here, be here.
How I'm feeling now is how Charli XCX was feeling during quarantine. The album was made in a 6-week time span between March and May 2020. In order to get the most authentic representation of the quarantine psyche. She also collaborated a lot with her fans on this album, something that probably wouldn't have happened if it weren't for COVID. This album was a hyperpop album, which I believe was the definitive genre of the COVID era. Hyperpop is essentially a caricature of pop music, which can be defined by eclectic and dense production and auto-tuned vocals. This type of music was popularized by artists such as 100 gecs and Charli XCX, her older stuff I mean. And it was notably a very digital type of music, which is why I think it was so popular during COVID. But as for how I'm feeling now, every song offers something different. There are songs about missing going out before COVID, like Pink Diamond, Anthems, and C 2.0.
I'm so bored.
There are love songs like Forever, Claws, and I Finally Understand, which were dedicated to her boyfriend at the time, but they unfortunately broke up in 2022, which recontextualizes those songs on the album. And then there are songs about her mental health and her heightened anxiety, like Detonate and Enemy. But the most popular song on this album is Party For You, which had a major comeback recently after going viral.
I only do this party for you. Only do this party for you, for you, for you.
Party For You was the only song that was produced before COVID. It was first previewed all the way back in 2017. But despite that, it really doesn't feel like it. The production is very similar to the rest of the stuff on the album, although the song was later reworked with a much more melancholic instrumentation. And the lyrics can absolutely be interpreted in a quarantine kind of way, where basically you can only throw a party for one person. And it really is one of the best tracks on the album, especially the outro. It's been great to see its resurgence in the past few months. But the final song, Visions, is really cool because it ends on this very unique note. And it's this lack of resolution that I think makes this album so cool. Like, we didn't know what was coming next, and the music reflects that. It just kind of feels open to interpretation. In general, something I like about this album is that it has this really compressed, tinny sound, which I think is very representative of her environment. Just like she was stuck inside her house, we're kind of stuck inside this album. And it creates this very unique effect that just boosts my enjoyment of the album. But now let's go to the Osprey system. This album was released in 2020, so 10 points. This is as of its time as it gets, so that's 10 points there. The sentiments of COVID are absolutely there, so that's also 10 points. Popularity was the variable I was most concerned about, and this album unfortunately peaked at 111, not being able to get the 10 points. However, because it was so close, and how Party For You has had a bit of a resurgence, I'm going to give it 5 points. There aren't any direct references to COVID, only implicitly, which I think is really cool, so it gets no deduction. And as for excellence, if you couldn't tell, I love this album. 5 points. So in total, it gets 45 points. Although this album might be the most representative of the COVID era to me, it's not definitive of it. Like, when I think of this album, I think of COVID. But when I think of COVID music, I don't think of this album. So let's review the Osprey scores. Imagine came in dead last with a 34. Party Girl got a 35, Tootsie Slide and Super Lonely got a 42, Starting Over got a 43, Folklore got a 44, How I'm Feeling Now got a 45, Deathbed got a 45.5, and Inside got a 47. So as of right now, I believe that Inside is the definitive music of the COVID era. But at the same time, I do believe that a perfect score is possible. And that's where I'm going to leave it to you. If you have any songs or albums that you believe is very well representative of COVID, let me know in the comments below. I'll probably be making a part 2 of this video with more music from the time. Also, in the description, I have a link to my Discord server, which you can join for updates on the channel. And I would like to once again thank you for the support you've been giving the channel. 1,000 subscribers is something I could not have imagined. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.
What I do, she know if I run from a nigga, I'ma pull it out, shoot. PTSD, I'm always waking up in cold sweats like I got the flu. My daughter a G, she saw me kill a nigga in front of her before the age of 2. And I